morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our information session on the latest call for proposal dedicated to fostering social innovations aimed at integrating the long-term employed into the labor market and promoting the social inclusion. We are delighted to have you here today. I'm Renata Ribinskaitė from European Competence Center for Social Innovation, and I will guide you through this event today. Today's session is an opportunity for us to share detailed information about this call, to get insights from representatives from the European Commission and from experts who have contributed to a significant report on social innovation that have already demonstrated their effectiveness in working with the long-term unemployed peoples. Also, we will answer your questions in the chat box and provide guidance on how you can contribute to this important initiative. Through this session, we will cover the specifics of application process, the criteria for selection, and the types of projects we are looking to support. We also provide detailed information about financial part and offer tips on how to craft a compelling application. Now, I would like to give the floor to Miglė Aleksonytė, representative from European Competence Center for Social Innovation, for the welcoming words. Miglė, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Renata. So dear representatives of the European Commission, ESF plus managing authorities and intermediate bodies, and all members of the European social innovation ecosystem who are interested in this call. Welcome to this info session organized by European Competence Center for Social Innovation. I'm Miglė Aleksonytė, responsible for the transnational calls here in European Competence Center for Social Innovation. During today's session, European Commission representatives, thematic expert of the community of practice of employment, education and skills, and my colleagues will present the most relevant information about this call, its objectives, requirements, expected outputs, and opportunities provided. It is very pleasing to see that we have over 150 participants representing almost all EU member states. We have participants today registered from 24 countries, so it's almost all European Union. And it is good to know that the topic of social innovation is relevant widely across Europe. This call aims to foster collaboration and knowledge sharing by supporting transnational projects that focus on transferring or scaling up on social innovations. And of course, they have to be aimed at the solutions for long-term unemployed people. Social innovations aim at changing the societal context, empower civil society actors, and boosting their capacity to act, as well as developing new policy approaches. The concept of social innovation allows public authorities, private, third sector organizations, local communities, as well as academia to enter into new relationships and to tailor innovative actions to the specific needs and opportunities and to contribute towards positive systematic change. And when we talk about transfer on social innovations, we mean implementing social experimentation in different contexts, be it territorial or across sectors. And when we mention upscaling of social innovations, it's about taking small-scale solutions and expanding them to reach larger audiences, from local to regional, national, and even European levels, ultimately benefiting more people. And finally, as we delve into the specifics of this call, it is crucial to underscore its focus on encouraging the transfer or scaling up of social innovations aimed at two specific objectives. Firstly, facilitating the integration of long-term unemployed people into the labor market, and secondly, fostering their social inclusion. These objectives are central to our collective efforts in addressing pressing social challenges and fostering resilience within European Union communities. I firmly believe that by pooling resources and sharing the knowledge we have acquired so far, we can truly make a difference. Together, we're not just tackling immediate issues, we're laying the groundwork for a more inclusive and resilient Europe. With that said, I extend my gratitude to all of you for your participation in today's info session. My hope is that you will leave this event with a deep understanding of the call structure, its objectives and opportunities. And I sincerely do hope that every country will have the chance to participate in one of the consortia under this call. So have a nice and productive 2.5 that we planned for you. And thank you for joining us. Renata, back to you.
Thank you, Migla, for your welcome words. And now let's begin with the first presenter of today's meeting, Lars Engstedt, presenter from the European Commission about European Commission policies on the long-term unemployment. Lars, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. As said, I'm Lars Engstedt from the unit in DD Employment, in charge of monitoring long-term unemployment. I will now try to give you a very brief overall policy context of this call as we see it here. And please, you can go to the first slide. So, as many of you might already know, the overall policy framework actually for in the Commission for addressing long-term unemployed is the Council recommendation on the integration of long-term unemployed from 2016. Now, it's almost 10 years ago, 8 years ago at least now, so it's a while ago, but you might also know that this Council recommendation is focusing basically on 4 key areas you see on the slide here. It's first of all the question of encouraging registration of long-term unemployed. That could be either in a public or in a private employment service. And one of the, I think, overall challenges we have had so far in the implementation is exactly also to reach out to some of the long-term unemployed who are actually not registered in any of administrative bodies also here. So again, this is a key element in a successful integration of long-term unemployed, that we actually reach out to them and get them registered also. The recommendation also foresees an individual in-depth assessment, and here again, the whole cooperation between public employment services and social services with a view to provide support for long-term unemployment is really crucial. We are here talking about this, what we call the single point of contacts, which is actually not meant as a physical, necessarily a physical building or administration, but more a sort of setup where all the relevant social services are linked also to employment services with a view to provide the best support for people who are facing long-term unemployment. Third area, the Council recommendation foresees is to provide a bit what we call job integration agreements, which is essentially a plan for reintegrating people in the labor market by offering them either a training offer or a job offer. And also very important here again that to this job integration agreement, there would be very clearly specified rights and obligations also for the long-term unemployed. This is an essential point also, that the two sides are respected here also. The fourth area is about facilitating stakeholder cooperation and partnerships, and very much is very much relevant for the call we are going to hear about today here again. Of course, it rely also very much on an effective cooperation with employers. Employers are essential elements also in terms of reintegrating long-term unemployed. And again, when we look at labor markets across the EU, we actually know that this is something that is very important, not only for long-term unemployed, but for the whole governance of labor markets, that we have a sort of advanced cooperation at local levels, regional levels, national levels, also between key stakeholders, effective partnerships also here. At least this is what the evidence shows us. And please go to the next slide. Yeah, of course, we have a number of monitoring elements also when we are following a bit the implementation of the council recommendation here. We have first of all a very specific LTU indicator framework consisting of 3 types of indicators, as you will see here. First of all, there's the issue of the more aggregated numbers that we also find in most labor market reports. Also here and telling us about how, the overall situation, the aggregated situation is for long-term unemployed on some of the key indicators also. On the direct monitoring, of course, we are more interested in, and this is what the figures here and the indicators are showing, how well member states are in actually using these job integration agreement. You could also call them output indicators. So what is the exit situation also of people who have been participating in job integration agreements is again an essential question. And finally, the question of follow-up is, of course, perhaps the most important indicator here on monitoring the things. Of course, we want to know how sustainable these job offers, these job integration agreements have been in terms of creating sustainable employment for people and over time really integrate them in the labor market again. So again, here we are measuring a bit what is exactly the situation 1 year on from when they participated in these job integration agreement. Now, I have to say that there is a number of gaps also in terms of data here. We don't have these data for all member states. Again, this has been an ongoing challenge actually for us, but hopefully this is something that will also improve in the future. Then the second area where we use a lot of efforts also is the so-called thematic reviews. And we have just had one thematic review here in April, 11th and 12th of April, within the EMCO framework. The EMCO is the Employment Committee, as I hope most of you will recognize. These reviews take place every 2 years. And the aim is again to take stock a bit on how well member states they have progressed in implementing the council recommendation here. We are here focusing on different aspects every time. For example, in 2000 and here in the one we had in April, we focused very much on this 4th area of the council recommendation, the stakeholder cooperation, the partnerships, and how well this is actually exploited in member states and used and actually takes place. In 2022, we focused on more the training provisions for long-term unemployed. And back in 2020, the focus was more on the social services, as I talked about before, the second area of the council recommendation, also to what extent adequate social services are in place also to long-term unemployed. Of course, all this feeds into the European semester. Also, we are occasionally issuing country-specific recommendations also on this. I think this is fair to say that this is more within a sort of overall framework where we might more focus on key structural aspects on active labor market policies, which again is what really determines how well the resources are also to integrate long-term unemployed. And please, the last slide. Yeah, so I think it's what is also important here to underline that we have seen within the last 1 or 2 years an increased political focus on long-term unemployed here 8 years after the council recommendation was adopted. The Committee of the Regions back last year adopted an opinion also these very what we could call employment initiatives, local employment initiatives, zero long-term unemployed. They have different names also. And the European Parliament also got very involved last year, proposing also pilot projects on this to explore a bit what the experience that is being gained around in Europe on this here. Now, the Commission, of course, has acted on this and has made this social innovation budget available also, and this is what finances this call of today here. I think again there are a number of steps actually we are going through here now in order to explore a bit what is there, the experience gained. There is first of all the mapping exercise. You have seen the report. I think also that was done here on by Jörg and his colleagues on mapping some of the initiatives that are already in place throughout Europe here again. It's very much our hope also and our plan to have a bit more in-depth analysis also on some of these experiences here, where we would learn more about what works where and when, in which situations, what are the key aspects and the key takeaways we can take from some of the implementation of some of these very promising local initiatives and experiences gained here again. So again, the final aim, you could say, also is whether we can draw any overall EU conclusions also on that. Of course, it's always the case that no one size fits all. But the question is again, can some of these experiences we see here around, can they be replicated in other member states, and to what extent and which situation and in which context also this would take place. We will see how well this, but it's clear the call here will feed very much into this this whole the experiences we can gain from this, and we are looking very much forward to really see some of the projects that might be developed within this, and how well this can also take also some of these experiences here forward again. Finally, also, as I said again, the EU funding is of course available, is already being used in some areas there to support that kind of projects also here. But just the last comment maybe on this, which I think is very important also. If we look at the way the Commission normally has proposed initiatives in the past also, we have always had this principle of a stepping stone principle. And I think this also I would expect would very much apply also for this year in the future. So we are very much looking for projects also and situations where we would give the unemployed or the long-term unemployed a sort of stepping stone to integrate in the actual and the real labor market, to increase, to empower them, to build out their skills, their competences, so that it's not being a sort of lifetime labor market that is being developed, but that people really have a sort of it function as a stepping stone to integrate the labor market. I think this has been, at least for a long time, one of the key principles also in the Commission's initiative. So I think this is also important to keep in mind there behind. And I think I will stop here. Probably already too long.
Thank you, Lars, for your inspirational presentation for us and for our participants. And so moving on to our next presenter, I would like to invite Agota Charlie, thematic expert of the Community of Practice on Employment, Education and Skills from European Competence Center for Social Innovation, who will present a mapping report of innovative approaches tackling long-term employment across Europe. Agota, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Renate. We can, I think, skip the first slide already. So my name is Agota Charlie, and I was co-author of the study with Jörg Markovic that was already mentioned by Lars. So this was a mapping report that looked at the existing practices in this area. the background was actually very well described by Lars, so I don't need to repeat this, that the most recent impetus from the political side came from the European Parliament and the European Committee of Regions in 2023, calling for more innovation by local authorities in the area of reducing long-term unemployment, and especially in using a new approach that was probably first introduced in France, that they call zero LTU, where the basic principle of the approach is that we're trying to redirect the cost of unemployment benefits into job creation, while also looking for ways to give something to the local community. So offer livelihood to the unemployed and social inclusion. Next slide, please. The report that we prepared and which was published in March this year, you can see the link at the bottom of the slide, aimed to map the existing initiatives that fall into this category, so which either take the zero unemployment approach or at least offer some sort of a job guarantee to the long-term unemployed participants. And what the core of the report is a comparative analysis of major recent experiments in 5 countries listed on the slides. The methodology that we used was basically to review the existing literature and to do interviews with the implementers of these schemes. And we also ran a mapping survey among members of our community of practice, basically to ask them about existing initiatives, and we used their inputs as well to find any existing initiatives that we have overlooked in the literature. The next slide, please. And based on the information that we found, we developed a typology of all the initiatives that include some element of job creations. I should point out here that we didn't look at all the potential measures that aim to tackle long-term unemployment. So we didn't look at training programs or wage subsidies. We only looked at the initiatives that had an element of job creation in them. In the table, those of you who are very attentive, you might notice the odd one out, which is basic income. We only included the basic income scheme as a comparison, and it's only there because in some cases the wording or the title of an initiative included a reference to basic income, and we wanted to make sure that that there's no confusion about mixing up the 2 types of schemes. So we didn't consider basic income schemes, but job creation schemes for the long-term unemployed. Now, what the typology tells you is that the very fine details of how each scheme is designed clearly has an effect or determines how the scheme or what each scheme can achieve. I don't want to describe or explain the whole table to you, but let me just take one example. If you see the difference between job guarantees and community job offers, one of them, so the job guarantee is has a specific design in terms of how the matching of jobs to unemployed participants is arranged. And in the case of a job guarantee, the new participant comes into the program, and no matter of their training or existing skills, they will be offered a job. So there is a guarantee of a job for them. And to some extent, this job is tailored to their needs and ambitions and competences. By contrast, in a community job offer, the jobs are there, and are probably derived from the needs of the community in most cases, and the unemployed participants have an offer to take or leave a particular job. So there's not necessarily no guarantee that they will get a job offer, and the job is not necessarily tailored to their needs. And there's a difference in the outcomes of these two types of schemes. As you noticed in the last line, it is quite likely that the job guarantee scheme has a little bit of more room for increasing the motivation of participants, precisely because the job is tailored to their ambitions and needs. And there are similar differences highlighted in the table. Maybe just one more example. If you look at the last column on transit employment, this is a scheme that has the same target in reducing long-term unemployment as a job guarantee or a community job offer, but it targets return to the primary labor market, and consistently with that, it has a much stronger upskilling element. So compared to the other schemes, rather than only restoring work habits and potentially motivation, it also includes some element of training, which is focusing on skills that are needed in regular jobs in the primary labor market. Next slide, please. So using the same typology, what you see here is a summary of all the existing schemes and initiatives that we have mapped in the report, which fall into these different categories. So some seem to be closest to the ideal type of a job guarantee, while others are more like a community job offer, and yet others are closer to what we described as transit employment. And in the report, we described in more detail the schemes that are circled in the table that you see in the middle. So these are the job guarantee and community job offer schemes. This is not to say, I should highlight, that these are the only types that might be supported by this call for proposals. So you might look at other types, or you might look at types that are adjusted or based on the existing ones and adjusted to the local context, or improved in view of the challenges that are identified either by the implementing agencies or by our report. So to go on to the next slide, please. This is just a little illustration on how the existing schemes are spreading. As you can see, the zero unemployment initiative that was first introduced in France has spread into several countries across Europe, and it will be interesting to see where else it might be implemented. I think the value, however, of these existing transfers to other countries is that we can see how the original French scheme might need to be adjusted in view of the local context. So there's already a fair amount of evidence and a lot of lessons that are nicely collected by French colleagues at the website that's given at the bottom of the slide. Next one, please. So again, I'm not going to give you all the details of these schemes. This slide and the next one is only to show very briefly that there is variation across the existing schemes. So they were implemented in different countries: France, Germany, Austria, and also different time periods. Some of the schemes are still running. For example, the French one, while some others have been closed, as on this slide, the German and the Austrian one. And it's also important to note that the financing structure of these schemes are different. Next one, please. So there are the two next schemes, that the Dutch and the Belgian one, are described in more detail in the report, while the others that are not job guarantee or community job offer schemes, such as the Greek, the Finnish, and the Italian ones, we're only mentioning these because we have looked at them, but we didn't do detailed case studies. And also these are already terminated. Let's look at the next slide, which gives you a little bit of a more detailed overview of the schemes. So now we see the main characteristics of the 5 initiatives implemented in 5 different countries. As you can see, they vary, or they're different in terms of the duration of the schemes, and also in the duration of from the perspective of the individual, so how long a participant can stay in the program. And they also vary very much in the local context, if it's a rural practice or an urban one, and in the size. So as you notice, the French initiative was by far the largest, with over almost 3,000 participants, and also the largest in terms of the budget, while the Dutch experiment ran in Groningen, focused on a single country, or sorry, a single city, and well, it actually involved more than 50 participants by now, but originally, when it was piloted, the first goal was to involve 50 participants. So you have a large variation, which is nice because it gives all of you an opportunity to find a relevant example, which could be relevant in the context where you're working, or where you're looking to initiate a new pilot. I should also mention that not all of these, while not all of these schemes have been based on ESF funding, several of them have been. So it tells us that it is there's no doubt that such schemes can be run by using ESF funding. Next slide, please. So a couple of insights, just summing up the lessons of the mapping report. As I already mentioned, some of the schemes were implemented in small communities, with one exception, and they have been implemented in both rural and urban settings, giving you a nice variety. The target groups and job profiles have been quite similar of these schemes. In most cases, the participants were older workers and long-term unemployed. Maybe this needs to be clarified. So obviously they were all long-term unemployed, but in most schemes they were very long-term. So not only unemployed for a couple of years, but over 3 years. The jobs created within the schemes were typically part-time, in most cases due to the preferences of the participants, because most people included in these programs have either some disability or health issue, or some care obligations. And in all cases, the jobs were created by the social economy of the community or the municipality themselves. The average costs, as you can see, were also in roughly the same range and relatively high. The duration of the programs was in typically at least 3 years, and probably the most important, or the key characteristics of all these programs, was that they included a very strong collaboration with local actors, which could include all the different units of a municipality, from the cultural institutions to the care services provided by the municipality, or maintenance units run by the municipality, and also NGOs and religious organizations. And last but not least, all of the programs that we have looked at included a very strong outreach element, meaning that the implementing agencies of the program and also the partner organizations took a lot of time to reach out and do street social work and go and personally invite potential participants in all the cases. Next slide, please. And I think that, yes, this is my last slide. So speaking about the strengths and challenges of the initiatives that we have identified, the strong point of all the existing programs are listed on the left side. So all of the initiatives recorded a highly positive impact on the economic and social well-being of the participants. And most of them managed to achieve this through providing jobs that are tailored to the needs and ambitions and competences of the participants. No surprise that this also corresponded to a high satisfaction on the part of participating unemployed persons, and low dropout rates and sustained employment. But sustained employment typically meant being employed within the scheme rather than moving on to the primary labor market. And in some cases, the program also recorded some value for the local community and social cohesion in terms of building social connections and with the unemployed people, and also more broadly within the community. However, we've also identified a number of challenges. The first one I already referred to was to the extent that these schemes can ensure or support transition to the open labor market. In most cases, the results were rather weak or modest in this respect. We've also identified a potential risk in that most of these schemes or practically all the schemes that we have looked at were implemented by local and central governments that are highly effective. And there is an issue, or there's a question there in how much similar schemes could be implemented in countries where the central government is less effective, more prone to corruption, for example, or if the local government system is weaker in terms of the basic efficiency of government. A related issue is also about the context, is to what extent such schemes can be implemented in countries where the third sector is weaker. So there are fewer NGOs, or the context, existing cooperation between NGOs or between NGOs and the public sector is not as strong as in the countries where these schemes had been implemented so far. A further issue that we identified was concerned the quality and matching of newly created jobs. There seems to be some sort of a tension in the existing programs in this regard, as you mentioned that you can either look at the existing skills and competences and ambitions of the participants and ask them to think of what sort of a job they would like to take and maybe create that job, but that job may not be necessarily needed by the community or may not be sustainable. At the same time, or the reverse case is that you look at the jobs that are viable in the given community and can be and express the needs of the community, but these may not match the existing skills of the participants. And we have in the existing schemes, we have not seen clear answers to this, to how to resolve this tension. The financial sustainability of the existing programs is also fragile, to put it cautiously. And in most cases, the existing evaluations have already identified a clear need for central government co-funding. So while the idea of transferring the cost of benefits into job creation is sensible, it's clear that this is not enough for financing such schemes. So there's need for additional input from the central government, which can be justified by the broader benefits of such programs in terms of the lower health spending or lower crime spending or other broader benefits that are there. So most schemes provide these benefits, but these are, since the benefits are accrued at the central level, this justifies funding from the central government. And last but not least, what we found was that although most of these schemes have been documented in detail, the reliable quantitative evidence on the existing schemes is relatively thin, with some important exceptions. For example, the Austrian Marienthal project is very extensively documented, and they have used randomized controls in their impact evaluations. So there's some very reliable evidence there. But in other schemes, the existing evidence is mostly qualitative. So the question actually remains in most cases regarding the actual size of the impact of these programs and their cost effectiveness. And I think that's the last word from me. Thank you very much for your attention, and I give the floor back to Renate. Thank you.
Thank you, Agata, for your presentation. Let's now turn to another presenter, Michael Gross, the representative from European Commission, who will share his insight on how social innovation can effectively address the needs of long-term employed, marginalized communities and promote inclusive growth. Please, Michael, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Renata. And thank you to Lars and Agata for setting the scene. Thanks also to Migla and her team for organizing this information session. Maybe let me start with highlighting that this call for proposals is part of the ESF Plus. So we are using their a specific budget that we have for the whole programming period of almost 200 million euros, and we're using a part of that to fund this call. And we are doing this together with our partners from the Lithuanian ESF agency, ESFA, Migla and colleagues, who are doing this work on our behalf, namely the calls for proposals, but also the mutual learning and the knowledge sharing, which is done mostly in these communities of practices where you have ESF Plus managing authorities, implementing bodies, NGOs, other stakeholders, and so on. And probably a lot of people listening today and joining us today are involved in some of these COPs, communities of practices. So this is our frame that we are operating in. And the focus of our work is really on the transfer and the scaling up of promising models, I would like to call it. For the previous stage of social innovation, for the experimentation, we have a dedicated fund that is the EASY Fund, Employment and Social Innovation. It's managed by a different unit. But here really the focus is transfer and scaling up in a transnational context, so in a European context. Yeah. So we want to see what works in one member state. How can we learn in another member state from this experience? And here I think the report from Agata and Jörg comes in very handy, because it gives a very nice overview of different existing models and schemes on which we want to build on. And this is then your work if you're interested to apply for funding for your project, how to learn from this and how to adapt it to your national, regional, local context, and which partner you choose to help you with this work. Yeah? So I think your Lars said it before, the learning is very important for us. And also the connection with the ESF Plus. So how could it fit into ESF Plus in the future? What kind of policy impact might it have? How can we change the approach you take in your member state? So this is the vision. This is where we want to go to. Just a last word on the political importance of this topic. Lars has mentioned the council recommendation. But very recently as well, we had this study which was done on our behalf, and we presented that. Jörg and Agata presented that in a webinar in March, which was highly attended. That was followed by a live event in the Committee of the Region with the rapporteur on this topic, where our commissioner Schmidt was present and highlighted the importance for our agenda. And on a working level, this is next month we will have a study visit to France to see one of the territoires sur chômage longue durée, which I'm very much looking forward to learn from the pioneers in this regard. I think that's it from me. Wishing you a good event, and I'm looking forward to seeing lots of interesting applications and interesting projects in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael, for your keynotes on the subject. And we heard the European Commission's expectations, the need to involve the long-term unemployed in different ways. So the forthcoming presenter, Miglė Aleksonytė, will outline the key points of the submission of application and its assessment. So Miglė, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Renata. I promise it is my last presentation today. I will not be speaking anymore. So yeah, can we move to the first slide of my presentation? Yeah, so I will try to be quite brief, presenting you the process, as it is not probably the most important before knowing the specificalities of the call, but the aspect that I will emphasize in my presentation about the operational capacity that each coordinator of the future consortia has to fulfill. So this is very important, and yeah, we will ask you to draw your attention to them. Choosing the right and the correct eligible coordinator for each of the consortia that it would fulfill all the requirements. So I can briefly start maybe from the assessment and the selection process, which is if you have ever tried writing a project, submitting a project, so it is not so much different. There are two main stages starting after you submit your application. We start from admissibility and eligibility check, which basically means that application is checked against all the requirements that are set in call conditions, and that application applicants, participants, coordinators, they have to be eligible according to the requirements within the call conditions. And then we would move to the assessment against award criteria, in which the points for the relevant criteria are provided, and which is done by the mostly and mainly by external experts. After that, applications will be selected in the project selection committee, and after that, for those who are pre-selected for funding, their recommendations, if there are any of the experts that have provided them, will be sent and placed, and the applications will have to be corrected according to these recommendations. Once the application is final and correct, we will go to the grant agreement preparation process, after which grant agreement is signed and the project implementation starts. So these are the main stages of the procedure within our agency or competence center. And also the legal entity check, operational capacity check, and exclusion criteria assessment is done in parallel according to these stages. Of course, I mean, you are able to read definitely much more about each of the stage and about all the procedures in the call conditions, and sections regarding these questions are pointed out here in the slide. We can move to another slide, please. Very briefly about the admissibility check, it is very and quite easy one. It is a technical one. An admissible application must be readable, accessible, complete, and contain all the requested information, as well as contain all mandatory annexes and supporting documents, which I will present very briefly in the upcoming slides. Those applications that are submitted by other means than our IT tool, iSINUS portal, or after the deadline, which is the last day of September, 5 p.m. Central European Time, they will simply be not accepted. I mean, the portal, the IT system will close, and you just will not have a chance to submit the applications. But just in case you provide it by email, by paper, or in some other format, they will not be assessed, dealt in any of the assessment stages. So just, yeah, please have in mind that and do not be late. And of course, failure to comply with one of the admissibility or eligibility requirements will lead to the rejection of the application, as applications cannot be improved, corrected during the assessment process. Next slide, please. And here are the documents that have to be submitted. So, of course, the most important documents are the application forms part A and B. As you might have noticed in our call documentation and in the call announcement page, it is written that we are improving and changing our IT tool for application submission, and the new one, an improved one, and hopefully more user-friendly one, will be open for your applications from the August of this year. So we are saying sorry for this inconvenience that might be to you, but once we will have a new tool, a bigger tool, and with many options, so it will be much more easier for you to apply and to manage the projects. And of course, we will provide information about the opening of this tool by all the means we have via our webpage. We will inform all the applicants, all the participants of this of this info session, and of course the information will be visible. And of course, you're welcome to check our website. Not only for this reason, but you can, of course, check it constantly, because we are improving our frequently asked questions section. We are providing support information, providing to the support to applicant section. And of course, this information about the opening of the IT tool, it will be available from the end of July, from the beginning of the August. Okay, so the other mandatory annexes that have to be submitted, so of course it is detailed budget table, which will be presented in detail by my colleague Erika a little bit later. So it is Annex 1, list of the previous projects, providing information and justifying your operational capacity. It is also one of the most important documents. It is Annex 5, Declaration of Honor for Beneficiaries being Annex 6, Declaration of the Professional Competences, also justifying the necessary information of your team. It is the Annex 8. And for those who do not have a PIC code available, which means that you have never applied for the European Commission applications via funding and tenders portal. So then in this case, the organization is required to provide registration certificate documentation. And of course, not mandatory, but highly recommended is a consortium agreement between the consortium partners, but it will be explained a little bit later. Yeah, next slide, please. Eligibility check. So to be considered eligible, an application shall, as I already mentioned, to be eligible according to all requirements in the application, but here are the main ones highlighted for you, and they will be explained in detail just right after my presentation by my colleague Rima. So first of all, the application shall involve only eligible applicants, co-applicants, and associated partners. Being registered in eligible countries. In this call, there are 4 countries more, until now at least, than member states. Application also has to be submitted by a consortium meeting requirements set out in the call conditions, not involve legal entities subject to the European Union restrictive measures, not exceed the maximum project duration, which in this case is 36 months, include co-financing of at least 20% of the project's total budget, to be submitted by the applicant who meets operational capacity criteria, about which I will talk just right after the slide, not to propose a project that has already been funded from the EU budget or will receive such funding in the foreseeable future, and of course, meet the other requirements of the call conditions. Next one, please. And here is the operational capacity. The one which is very important. It is good, I hope, fully good. Only operational capacity of the coordinator will be assessed in this column, which means the following: that the coordinator, the main applicant of this application that you are going to submit, must have sufficient experience in project management or coordination, meaning that the coordinator, as the legal entity, has managed at least one consortium project with a value of at least 200 euros, having inside the consortia at least 2 partners within the last 5 years, which means that the project, the eligible project for the operational capacity, could have been implemented between 2019 and until this year, until the deadline for applications for this call. So these projects, or at least one project, they have to be already finished and implemented in the period that I mentioned. There's also another option to justify your operational capacity if the lead project manager, the person which is directly involved in the implementation of the project, submitted under this call, has managed the same project as it was described in the point A, at least one consortium project with a value of at least 200 euros, with at least 2 partners within the 5 last years. And the project I'm mentioning, the one that is suitable for justification of your operational capacity, has to meet all these 4 criteria that are mentioned in bold. Of course, you might read a little more details in the call conditions, yeah, but the main aspects are these. And also the project and application also has to provide a proven track record in which working with long-term unemployment initiatives for at least 1 year could be described. This requirement applies either to the coordinator, meaning the main applicant, to co-applicants or experts that are or will be engaged in the project. And all this operational capacity, all these requirements, they have to be described in the Annexes 5 and Annex 8. And yes, there's also short explanation about the lead project manager, that it has to have a very good command of English, meaning level C1 or higher, and the lead project manager can be a person that is currently employed in the coordinator's organization, or it might be, or he or her might be employed just on the date of the signature of the grant agreement, meaning for the project implementation. It doesn't have necessarily to be your employee until now. Yep, we can go to the next one. Yes, and as I already mentioned, the operational capacity, it has to be justified in and by the documents that have to be filled in or provided together with the application. A declaration of the coordinator certifying the professional competences, appropriate qualifications of the project team to implement the project, meaning Annex 8. General profiles, qualifications, and experiences have to be described of the staff responsible for managing the project in the application form, Part B, point 2.3. A list of projects managed by the coordinator or lead project manager. As I have just mentioned, it has to be described in the Annex 5. And unfortunately, if the coordinator is considered not to have the required operational capacity, the entire application will be rejected, as coordinators, main applicants, cannot be changed during the application assessment process. Yep. Next one, please. Very briefly about the financial capacity. Of course, it is also one of the main criteria that have to be fulfilled. Under this call, also, as with operational capacity, only the financial capacity of the coordinator, the main applicant, will be assessed if the application is pre-selected for funding. An applicant, the coordinator, shall have stable, sufficient, and solid financial resources, meaning a strong financial capacity to maintain project activities and to contribute to the funding of the project as required. Of course, the financial capacity assessment is based on financial indicators as assets, liabilities, revenues, but other aspects, such as the composition of the project cost, the coordinator's experience in other EU projects, coordination of transnational consortia, etc., in the previous years will also be considered to ensure the credibility of the financial credibility of the coordinator. And it is very important, the verification of financial capacity shall not apply to public bodies. Next one, please. An exclusion criteria. Maybe I will not go deeply and will not read them in detail. Of course, more explanations are provided in the call conditions, but of course, it also applies not only to the coordinator, but to the co-applicants as well. No organization meeting these criteria, any of these criteria might be selected for funding from EU funds. If organization finds itself in bankruptcy situation, winding up affairs administered by the courts in breach of social security or tax obligations, guilty of grave professional misconduct. If it has committed fraud, corruption, money laundering, terrorism-related crimes, if it is guilty of irregularities, so of course it cannot participate and cannot be selected under this and of course other calls by European Union money. Next one, please. And now my last slides and last information about the award criteria. For which each of the application will be provided the points under which, according to which the selection will be made. So there are three main award criteria: relevance, quality, and impact. And you can see the maximum points and threshold points which application can get for the maximum. So for the relevance, it is possible to get 40 points and the threshold is 25 points. For the quality criterion, which you will see in the next slides, it is divided into two sub-criteria. You can receive maximum 40 points and the threshold is 20, and the impact being the last but not the least, for which you can get 20 points and the threshold is 10 points. Why I am mentioning and emphasizing the thresholds? Because as you can see, the maximum of total award criteria point that might be awarded to the application is 100. Overall threshold that each application has to pass in order to be possible to be funded is 60 points. But unfortunately, the applications which do not score the minimum of the threshold, 60 points, or if it does not pass the minimum score threshold set for the each criterion, being 25, 20, or 10, they all be rejected. Either they do not gather 60 points or 25 or 20 or 10 points for each or at least one of the criteria, they will be rejected. And now a little bit deeper about each criterion. Next slide, please. So here is the relevance. And during the assessment, the extent to which the project contributes to the aim and activities of the call, extent to which the project fosters transnational cooperation aimed at transfer and upscaling of social innovations. Of course, that is one of the main objectives and the goals of the whole initiative, not only of this call. The extent to which the project describes synergies with other existing local, regional, national offerings and services, of course, avoiding the duplication with existing support for long-term unemployed people, and the extent to which the project is relevant to the needs and constraints of the target group will be assessed during this criterion. Next one, please. Quality. The criterion which is divided into two parts. One is for project design and implementation, and another part is for the cost effectiveness of the project. For each of these parts, as for the maximum, each application can get 20 points. The threshold for both of the parts is 10 points. Assessing the cost effectiveness, the feasibility of the project within the proposed time frame and budget, as well as cost effectiveness, meaning sufficient appropriate budget for proper implementation, best value for money will be assessed. And on the project design and implementation, the clarity and consistency of the project, logical links between the identified problems, needs, and proposed solutions, methodology for implementing the project, meaning the organization of the work, monitoring timetable, risks and risks management, a balanced distribution of tasks, responsibilities, resources among the consortium members, and the management tools selected for this project. A clear and justified rationale for the composition of the consortium will be assessed. Next one, please. Impact. The extent to which the application includes a sound and detailed impact evaluation methodology, the extent to which the planned intervention demonstrates a long-term vision, the effectiveness of dissemination to maximize the uptake of the project results at different levels, and sustainability of the results after the EU funding ends will be assessed, assessing this criteria. Next one, please. And this is my last slide, and here are some helpful tips. The first one, I'm very glad that we already received the questions in the chat box and have answered. There were questions about our help. Do we provide one to search for partners? So my colleague Erikas will explain you in detail at the very end of this information session about the matchmaking sessions that we organize for our applicants within our IT tool provided, which is actually very accessible, user-friendly. So please take good advantage of that, participate, and find the partners, transnational or even national, if you need. Also, check out the frequently asked question and support to applicant sections, in which we will provide all the materials from this info session, from upcoming info sessions, and the answers to the questions that we receive. Also, please turn your questions to the emails that you see on the screen. LTU is designated for the content-related questions, and IT help will be helpful from the August when we launch our new IT system. Please also take advantage of the Annex 4, which we prepared for your convenience, in which you might find the list of required documents to be submitted for this call, so where you can easily just check if you have gathered all the information. There is also an operational capacity self-assessment checklist provided in our support applicant section and in the frequently asked questions section, where you can also easily check whether your organization main applicant, the future coordinator of the project, is it eligible according to the operational capacity requirements. And of course, do not be late to submit the applications, and also please follow the information on our call website, which is still under our agency, but the new website will be launched quite soon in June, so information will be provided also about that. Yes, and I already mentioned that there will be also information about launching the new IT tool in August. So thank you so much. I wish you pleasant following sessions, and very much hope to see many fruitful applications that could ease the situations of our main target group. Thank you.
Thank you, Miglė, for your presentation. I just would like to inform you before moving to another presenter that yesterday we published the frequently asked questions where you can find the answers you need. So our next presenter is Rima Šermonytė Baniulė from European Competence Center for Social Innovation, who will explain the project design, eligible activities, possible beneficiaries and partners, and much more. So, Rima, the floor is yours.
Hi, Renata. Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Great. So, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining to learn more about the main aspects of the call. And as Renata mentioned, I'm Rima Sarmuntita Banula, coordinator at Transnational Calls team at European Competence Center for Social Innovation. And I will walk you through the main aspects of the call. So I will cover the aim of the call, eligible participants, expected activities, outcomes, and how to best design your proposals. Of course, and as well, I will present a social innovation tool. So without further ado, let's explore opportunities of this call. So we had several excellent presenters already. So in my presentation, I will be revisiting certain topics, but I hope this will be really helpful. So first of all, the aim of the call is to encourage applicants to transfer or scale up proven and promising social innovations aimed at facilitating the integration or reintegration of long-term unemployed into the labor market and or fostering their social inclusion. So as you already heard today, in this call, transfer means applying successful social innovation methods in new contexts, and while scaling up means and involves expanding these methods to reach more beneficiaries or a broader target groups. It is, of course, important to note that your innovative idea should be built on already existing social innovation initiatives that are still going or are have been implemented in the past, rather than creating entirely new initiatives. And the target group of the call is long-term unemployed persons. And as defined in call conditions, it is an individual of working age who has been without employment for at least 12 months. And this is irrespective of whether he or she is officially registered with the National Public Employment Services. And we have already received certain questions asking to clarify whether certain condition could be accepted as fulfilling the criteria. And for instance, if a 17-year-old person has dropped out from school, is not in the employment, is not registered with any other educational institution, is not working, such person is fulfilling the criteria of long-term unemployed person and is a target group of the call. Also, projects are expected to reflect three key areas. First of all, as of course you already heard, is cooperation with local employment stakeholders, building partnerships between local employers and communities. Second, it's improving the mobilization, that is the outreach of the target group of long-term unemployed persons. And third is creating an individualized, accessible, and of course, inclusive approach for long-term unemployed persons. Can we please move to the next slide? All right, so the potential of social innovation, we already heard about it today, but I want to highlight that the social innovation is at the heart of this call, and there were a few questions already in the chat. So let me remind you that definition of social innovation can be found at the excuse me, ESF Plus regulation, and it is defined as an activity that is social both to its ends and its means, and it is an activity which relates to the development and implementation of new ideas, whether products, services, or practices and models, and this simultaneously meets social needs and creates new social relationships or collaborations between public, civil society, or private organizations. Therefore, it benefits the society and boosts its capacity to act. And we believe that by harnessing the potential of social innovation, organizations can really drive meaningful changes that empower communities and also the long-term unemployed persons. Can we please move to the next slide? So now we know the aim and the definition of social innovation, just main facts on the call, main information. So expected duration of proposals is 36 months. Estimated grant is from 1 to 3 million euros. The total budget of this call is 23 million euros. The form of a grant is foreseen to be a lump sum grant. More on that you will be able to hear on the financial aspects presentation that will follow my presentation. And also important message here is that only consortia can participate and submit applications. Can we please move to the next slide? I will briefly remind you the timeline. As many of you might be aware, the call is already open and it was launched in April. The deadline, that's the most important date, is the 30th of September, by which the proposal should be submitted. And assessment of applications is foreseen to take place from October to January in 2025. And signing of agreements is expected to take place in April 2025. Okay, can we please move to the next slide? Yes. So estimated size of a grant is to be between, as you heard, 1 million to 3 million per project, but constituting not more than 80% of the project's total budget. But I want to highlight that this does not preclude the submissions of applications requesting other amounts, that is lower or higher amounts. The applications will still be considered. And regarding the co-financing rate, I would like to move to the next slide, please. So as mentioned, co-financing of 20% is applicable, and it might be contributed in different ways. So it is possible that only one beneficiary contributes to the project. Also, co-financing might be distributed between all beneficiaries, and you will hear more about this aspect in the financial part, presentation of financial part. But the important rule that I want to highlight, that there is a strict prohibition of double funding from EU budget, and under no circumstances same activities should be funded twice. So let's move to the eligible participants. Slide. Right, so the eligible participants are applicants that are main applicants, coordinators, co-applicants, and associated partners. They must be, first of all, legal entities, that is public or private bodies. So there is all forms of public or private bodies are able and welcome to submit applications. This might be local employment services, NGOs, municipalities, and any other legal bodies, as long as they are legal bodies according to their national law. And these entities must be established in one of the eligible countries, that is in European member in Europe, that is European member states, and non-EU countries, that is listed European Economic Area countries, and countries that are associated to ESF+, that is Iceland, Montenegro, Norway, and Serbia, or countries with which an association agreement is being negotiated, and most importantly, for which the agreement enters into force by the deadline of this call. We had certain questions in the chat, so this is also an answer to the question. Let me remind you that natural persons cannot be applicants, co-applicants, or associated partners, and international organizations can only participate in a project as associated partners. And as Renata mentioned, definition if required to the call website. Let's move to the next slide, please. Okay, so now we established eligible participants. I want to remind you, Migle has touched on this as well a little bit, that validation process will take place, and the validation process of eligible participants is as follows. So if the entity is already validated by Central Validation Service and has participation identification code, an applicant will not be required to submit the entity's registration certificate again. But there is different rules. If the entity has not been validated yet, the applicant will need to submit documents certifying the entity's legal status as an annex to the application. And to check if your organization has a validated participant identification code, you will be able, by using the link provided in this slide, which will be distributed after the event. And let me highlight that by being registered and validated really simplifies the submission process. And I want to draw your attention that at the website you can find several statuses as showcased here, for instance, as sleeping or declared. And this is not the status we are looking for. The one that is really suitable is the one in green, and it's validated. And we encourage all potential applicants to complete this step early to avoid any delays in your application. So let's move to consortium setup. And as mentioned, only consortia can participate in applying, and it must consist of at least 2 legal entities. And those entities has to represent 2 different eligible countries. Also, as mentioned by Migle, among these entities, at least 1 legal entity must demonstrate a proven track record of experience in the field of long-term unemployment. Some clarifications regarding associated partners is that an associated partner can participate in a project, but may not declare eligible costs. And it will also not be counted towards the required minimum number of consortium members, as well as associated partners must be in line with the requirements for the consortia composition. And let me highlight you as well that under this call, an entity may participate as the coordinator, that is in a role of a coordinator, only in one consortium. Now, so let's move to the supported activities and expected outcomes. I walked you through the more or less facts on the call, the name of the call, and would like to speak more about the content of the call and composing your application. So first of all, in the next slide, I would like to present the key activities that are expected within proposals. And here in this slide, I show you the categories of the activities that must be addressed. And this is crucial to ensure that the initiatives targets the root causes of challenges of long-term unemployment, and applicants must propose, let me highlight this, projects that include at least the following 6 predefined mandatory categories of activities. And categories 1 to 5 really represent the content of innovative approach. And first category is strengthening of collaboration and capacity building. Second category of activities is fostering partnerships with local communities and local employers. Third category of activities is mapping and reaching out to the target group. The fourth category is empowering and social inclusion of the targeted group. The category labeled number 5 here is offering various working options and opportunities for long-term unemployed persons. And of course, in the call conditions, you will find a number of examples that were drawn from previous experiences. And just to list few, it might include the building the capacity of stakeholders to implement innovative models, of course, for long-term unemployed, facilitate collaboration among employment actors through, for instance, creating employment committees or networks. It can be community job creation initiatives, something like community gardens or recycling initiatives, collaboration with local employers to create inclusive hiring practices, and so on and so on. So I really invite you to revisit the call conditions. And the category number 6, participating in mutual learning events, is also identified as a mandatory category. 6 events are planned throughout duration of the projects. 3 of them will be online, and 3 will take place on-site in locations such as Vilnius, Paris, and Brussels. So to sum up, activities really range from building and strengthening collaboration among multiple stakeholders, offering various employment conditions, and participating in mutual learning events in order to exchange the knowledge. So we believe that these guiding principles are designed to make the application preparation process more straightforward. So now let's move to recommended outcomes, which is presented in the next slide. And as really given the range of activities is really broad, we are expecting that applicants should demonstrate in their projects a focus on achieving the recommended outcomes. And of course, outcomes are not only a reflection of past and existing good practices, but also serves as a strategic direction of the proposals. So the key outcomes recommended to target in the proposals are, firstly, capacities of participating entities to be built. And this means enhancing collaboration among employment actors and equipping stakeholders with innovative approaches tailored to the unique challenges of long-term unemployment. Secondly, enhanced stakeholder diversity and collaboration, and projects should foster broad networks. It's encouraged increase awareness of innovative approaches and empower communities by turning long-term unemployed individuals into more active citizens. Thirdly, reduced long-term unemployment as an outcome should be foreseen, and it would be expected to see an increase in the integration of long-term unemployed persons into the labor market. And lastly, personalized coaching services should be strengthened, and this involves developing coaching tailored specifically to the needs of long-term unemployed persons. So by focusing on these outcomes, we believe projects will effectively address the aim of the call. And a more detailed, let me remind you that a more detailed list of examples of activities and expected outcomes is available in the call conditions, and we really invite you to revisit those parts. Now, let's move to two more or less technical slides. And so we explored the key outcomes and activities. I really want to present essential elements of the applications, as properly structuring your applications is vital to ensure it meets all the requirements and stands out during the evaluation process. And this slide focuses on the essential elements, where first is conceptual framework, and your application should clearly articulate a clear conceptual framework that outlines the social innovation you are willing to transfer or scale up. But I want to highlight that within your innovative approaches, it is crucial to emphasize that any opportunities that will be created with the innovative solution for long-term unemployed persons must supplement existing offerings, but not to redistribute them. If we focus on the essential element number 2, which is relevance of social innovation, in the application section titled The Theory of Change, applicants will be asked to explain why it is reasonable to develop further the chosen innovative approach. An application should demonstrate a clear need for social innovation and explain how it will tackle identified problems effectively. Essential element number 3, if briefly, transnational partnership. Within the application, applicants will be asked to clearly describe how each consortium member that was selected will contribute to the project's aim, promote mutual learning, foster collaboration, and ensure successful execution. Of course, we will be asked to assign roles and assign members to the tasks of the foreseen project. Essential element number 4, diversity of stakeholders. It speaks about the incorporation of what's called quadruple helix model of innovation, and it recognizes the importance of public, private, academic sectors, and civil society, and participation of wider networks is really encouraged, and applicants will require to identify relevant stakeholders and explain in their proposals how their collaboration will be organized and how it will be beneficial to the project. For the essential element number 5, user-centered approach, of course, applicants should prioritize the needs and interests of long-term unemployed persons. And I want to highlight that there was also a question about the voluntarity of the participation. It is an essential element to ensure that the participation of long-term unemployed is really voluntary, and under no circumstances such target groups are somehow forced out of any other arrangements to be able to participate in the current project. If we speak about the 6th essential element, impact measurement and management, applicants will be asked to demonstrate that the proposed solutions are viable in terms of impact. So applicants will be required to include provisional outcome indicators for monitoring activities and the impact, of course. And the final essential element is dissemination and communication. And applicants will be asked to describe the activities planned to promote the project results and maximize their impact at whether local, regional, or European level, and specify dissemination channels and target groups and any other relevant information that you will feel as contributing to the dissemination activities. So by clearly addressing these elements, we believe your application will be robust and will significantly increase its chances of success. And why is it so? Let's move to next slide. It is there's few tips for preparing the application, and I have just okay, this slide is really technical and busy. So first of all, let's read it through from left to right. And if you can see the application itself, it is guided by the essential elements which are set in call conditions section 2.5. So everything that I just mentioned previously applies to all application. And then a few tips is that the overall project description shall be organized in coherent work packages. As you can see in this slide, the first column, which starts with the work package labeling, in my example is WP001. And my advice is that the number of work packages should be within your applications well justified, but an important message is here that among other work packages that you will be planning, the project should include at least 3 mandatory work packages. So first is project coordination management work package, and activities under this work package should be only those that are implemented by the coordinator. The second work package is dissemination and communication work package, and the third work package is employment of long-term unemployed persons. And I know there already were several questions, but it will be presented in more detail in the financial part presentation. What I would like to highlight maybe is that work packages with a long duration, such as coordination management, might be split into several work packages of shorter duration, of course, over the reporting periods to better manage your projects. And one more thing to mention, if you will look to the second and third columns, each work package may have multiple activities and multiple deliverables, but it is essential that within application, clear links between activities and deliverables are demonstrated. Also, it is recommended to plan a reasonable number of deliverables, as they will become, of course, contractual obligations, and work package will be accounted as completed if all activities and all deliverables will be completed. So one more final message that among other deliverables, there is one mandatory deliverable which is titled The Final Report, Lessons Learned and Future Plans. And the template is available as an annex to call conditions. So my apologies for this really busy slide, but I hope the tips will be useful. And this was the final slide on the contents and on the facts of the call. So I would like only to move to the final slide and present you one important source of inspiration. Can we please move to the next slide? Yes, so I would like to present the Social Innovation Match platform, which is a new tool to promote the transfer and scaling up of social innovations across Europe. And this database can really be a helpful resource for sources of inspiration on social innovation, because in this database, applicants can showcase social innovation examples that were implemented, search for social innovation projects developed or tested, identify other organizations whose work is a source of inspiration, of course, search for potential partners for European calls for transnational projects. And currently, there are more than 160, I think, social innovations uploaded to the website. It comes from more than 25 countries and on more than 16 topics. So this can be used really as a relevant source for search of innovative ideas. And in the next slide, we will include direct links to the source and other related information. So I would like to conclude here. I would like to thank you for your attention and commitment, and I wish you best of luck with your applications. And I invite you to stay for the presentation of financial aspects, and would like to give back word to Renata.
Thank you, Rima, for your very, very important presentation of today. So the next presenter, Erika Suknevičius, will give answers to financial aspects of this call, how to arrange lump sum for your work packages, what are eligible rules, about also for coming matchmaking event, how to find partner, and all other details about the platform. So Erika, please take the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Renata, and hope you had a great coffee break, virtual coffee break, and you are back for this last presentation. Basically, the last presentation. It will be followed up with an announcement of our matchmaking event. So I will run quickly through the plan of my presentation, and we will speak about the lump sum funding, what it is, why it is, and how we plan lump sum funding expenses with how we link them with work packages. We'll go through some of the cost categories, some specificity of this project as well while planning work packages, and with project payments, which are linked also with lump sum planning. So why lump sum funding and what it is? It's a simplified way of a simplified form of costs, where applicants will have to describe those costs in the obligatory annex to the project application in the detailed budget table. And after the assessment and evaluation, the lump sum will be established. Lump sums for this call are linked to the work package. So when the applicant will finish the work package as it is planned and described in the grant agreement, I'll present shortly, the payment is delivered, is paid. And why lump sum funding? What are well, let's say cons here? This way we lessen the administrative burden for delivering documents to us, and for us to evaluate let's say the impact of a project going through all the necessary financial documents. So lump sum funding, while implementing the project in this way, where we have lump sum funding, applicants, let's say beneficiaries later on, do not have to provide us all the accounting documentation, all the supporting documentation to the project. We go through the plan, let's say through the grant agreement that was set, through all the indicators, deliverables, and we see if, let's say, the work package is finished, and we pay the whole linked lump sum to the work package in this way. All the, let's say, all the timetables of staff involved in the project, well, you can keep that for your accountancy, which is required by your national law, by the EU law, but we do not request them, such documents, let's say, with the reporting documentation of the project, either it is an interim report or a final report. However, you have to keep those documents for yourself if any checks or audits will occur during or after the implementation of the project. But lump sum funding gives us a little bit, let's say, free time to faster communicate with beneficiaries, to give decisions more quickly. And the basic, I don't know, visual here for the lump sum funding. This is example of a project which has 4 work packages: work package 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each work package has its own lump sum, basically established expenses that you need for the particular work package, and all the 4 lump sums here form the total project lump sum. Worth mentioning again that lump sums are planned in the detailed budget table. And what was mentioned before as well, the co-financing rate here is important as well. A co-financing rate of 20% is required from project applicants. And this co-financing rate is calculated already into the while planning the project's budget, while planning particular work packages. Let's dive a little bit deeper. So here is an example of work package 1. We can give it a name of, let's say, very common work package, project management work package. And here it has 3 activities. Number 1, 2, and 3 in different colors. Here are planned 3 specific activities for the project. Each activity in this example has deliverables. So deliverables are planned results, how we can see and how we can see that your activity is finished. It reached its goal, right? So you have to plan some deliverables. Here are 2 deliverables, can be 1, can be 5, depends on what kind of activity you are implementing. And when everything is finished, the lump sum is paid. Now there is one thing to consider, and I will mention it later as well, that you received payment after you finish your work package and after the interim or final report are provided. So it is important to advisable. It is advisable. It's not important. It's advisable to link your work packages to the reporting periods. So you would have the cash flow in the project while implementing it. For current project, which is 3 years, for 36 months, span for 36 months, the first reporting period is after the 18 months of project implementation. So when you plan your project, consider this: to have cash flow in the project, to have money for all expenses, and let's say the longer, the bigger work packages that when you plan your budget, when you plan your project, when you plan your work packages, it's possible to separate very long work packages. Let's say the horizontal work package, like management or project dissemination work packages that last from the 1st month to the 36th month, into smaller ones. So you could receive your payments after the project reports. So let's say you can plan your project management work package 1 up until the 18th month, and then when you give us a report, we will evaluate it, and if everything is delivered, if everything is achieved, we pay the lump sum related to the work package. And the second work package, management work package, may be planned after the, let's say, from 19th month to the other reporting period. The other example here is the example where we do not provide payment linked to the lump sum. This may be a little bit scary, but here in this example, there are 2 deliverables are not achieved. Work package is over, and deliverables are not achieved. This means the lump sum, which is linked to the whole work package, cannot be paid. Here we advise, though, to plan your deliverables to be reachable depending on your project's logic, depending on the activities logic. Do not plan activities that you have a high risk not to reach them, because in this way, if you do not reach at least one activity linked to work package one deliverable linked to the activity, which maybe has 5 deliverables, but one is not reached, that means the whole work package, which was programmed, which was agreed upon, is not reached, the lump sum cannot be paid. So we advise to have a good logic while planning work packages and realistic deliverables here. Now you can find detailed budget table on the COL's website as well, with annexes of application. And detailed budget table is a mandatory annex. It has to be filled in. It has to be split into. It has to be calculated depending on beneficiaries on the consortium of the project, of eligible beneficiaries of the project, and we have prepared as well video instructions, a small tutorial on how to fill in the detailed budget table. Also worth mentioning that when working with this document, you have all the instructions written down as well, how to fill in the project, the table, the detailed budget table here. Now with the eligibility of the costs. So cost should be eligible and linked to the call. It should be linked to the project's aim. It should be linked to the activities, and the logic should work together with your activities and deliverables planned in project application. And there are some rules that applicants have to follow up or be in line with. So the first, let's say, you have to be in line with your national law on accountancy, on how you calculate your costs, how what documents, supporting documents you save later, and in line with EU law as well. Now, expenses plan should be reasonable. So we have to understand, and we have to see while reading the project application and evaluating it, we have to be able to understand why you need certain, let's say, experts to the project, why you need certain amount of people managing the project, positions, what kind of positions, and let's say long-term unemployed. We have to see that and understand why there are certain amount of long-term unemployed that you would like to involve into project activities in there. And expenses should comply with the duration of the project as well. You cannot have expenses planned in the project before the project starts. Let's say before grant agreement is signed. Any expenses are eligible after this signing of grant agreement. Any preparatory expenses while agreement is not signed and not eligible. And we have, I will go through some categories here. So we have 4 categories in detailed budget table. So direct personal costs linked to employees working managing the project and expertise, which is working in the project. There are purchase costs related to travel, some goods and works that may be purchased during the project, and what is specifically for a specific category for this call is or subcategory in other cost categories. C1 is subsidized employment, and D is linked to indirect costs that are said to be 7% of the eligible direct costs of the project. This category is calculated automatically. And speaking about personal costs, these calculations, I'll go through this example a little bit more in detail. Here we are calculating the personal costs of project management team of experts from a project coordinator who are involved in the project, and as well we will calculate with the same let's say method the personal costs of long-term unemployed linked to who are participating in the project, who would be employed by employment providers while implementing the project. I'll go quickly through the first table here, which is light blue. So here we are calculating the personal effort, the way how we do this. So total days equivalent of a full time. We divide to 17.92. The number 17.92 is a stable number. It represents average, probably average of working days per month, considering the European Union. We have 31 days in month, but working days we have 17.92 because we have a lot of weekends and national holidays as well. So this is a constant. Basically, a year has 215 productive days, as we calculated for this project. I go to the table which is on top right, and I'll give you an example, and maybe it will be a little bit more clear how we calculate this personal effort. So, for example, in work package 1, project management work package, you need 2 managers who will work part-time on the project with the project activities, and each works for 10 days per month, and they work for 10 months. So 10 days per month during 10-month period. Some examples. So we calculate effort like this. We have 2 managers times 10 months and times 10 days divided by this productive days per month. So you basically have a result of 11.16 full-time months for the project. And here we do not separate, on this example, do not separate that the project manager 1 or project manager 2 we need it. These are 2 positions, and we calculate them as just personal effort per month for the project period. And this effort, will be linked in your project table, in detailed budget table, with costs related to this position. And we have to calculate, now we go a little bit down on the left down corner, we have to calculate average monthly personal costs now. And how to do it? We need to to plan the project, let's say salary for the project coordinators in this example, or any other positions related to project management. We need to consider the last 12 months of the salary of that person. It's not exactly linked to the last financial year, but to calculate the last 12 months of the salary. In this way, we will have average cost for the position. So we go to the example in, let's say, in work package 2, these 2 managers that we had were calculating the effort will work for last 12 months. Their salaries were for one 46,000 euros for 12 months, for other 50,000 euros. So average monthly personal costs are 4,000. So we have 2 very important numbers here in this slide: is personal effort, which is, from example number 1, 11.16, and the average monthly personal cost, which is 4,000. Maybe it will be clearer now. I will present a table, how we put it into detailed project budget. So let's say we have the position of project manager. We have under the units category the personal effort, which is 11.16. And the cost of the unit, that average salary we had for 1 month, is 4,000. And now we calculate the costs. Well, they are calculated automatically. I think the costs are calculated in dependence of these 2 units and units per cost. So 4,000 times 11.16 to these categories. The same you can do with other positions. In this example, and in the detailed budget table that you will download later on from from the COL's website, you have already specified positions here: project manager, experts, researchers, administrative staff, and other. They're written down in the budget table, but you are able to change these positions depending on your needs. Maybe not everyone needs researcher. You will need another position linked to project management in your project. So you are free to write down your positions here. So I will go through quickly through other territories. I hope I will not be too late. So these are travel, accommodation as a subsistent costs, how they are calculated. What is important to mention here in this slide, you have links to the documents that have already fixed amounts related to travel, are calculated by the distance you travel throughout all Europe. What are accommodation costs in each country, and what are subsistence costs in each country there. So we will share the slides with you after the presentation, and you can freely navigate these documents here with together with a distance calculator and together with planning your travel accommodation subsistence costs, because they are already there in the document that you have to consider when planning such expenses. Now, when planning other goods, works and services, one thing is to mention that purchases between beneficiaries, between project beneficiaries, are not accepted. And all the procurement activities have to go with principles of transparency, non-discrimination, mutual acknowledgement, proportionality, and even standing, and should be in line with applicable law on public procurement. When you plan purchases of, well, let's say this is an example of an expert services, it's good to consider that you will ask few, not only one expert, but few experts for their, let's say, costs, how much they would cost. So expert 1 here in an example costs 10,000, expert 2 is 20,000 euros. So services cost per unit is an average here. So we have 15,000 euros as a set unit that will be calculated in detailed project budget project table. Budget table. Worth mentioning, projects of this call are expected to be from 1 million to 3 million. The budget is quite big, and it's good for us as well, who will evaluate your applications, and external expert as well. And I think it's good for you to write down some comments, what you calculated and how you calculated in detailed budget table. There is a special section in there. So it will be easier for us to see, to evaluate our expenses eligible or not. The comments are not requested, but they are helpful, helpful as we see from our practice for beneficiaries later on, who for the whole consortium later on, who is implementing the project, because you plan your expenses now in 2024. Deadline is the 30th of September. Next year, if you are successful, you will sign grant agreement. Your first report will be after 18 months of implementation. So basically what you plan now you will check again after probably 2 years from now if you are successful. So it's good to have to have records how you calculated, what you calculated. You know, good for you and good for us as well to remind us what was calculated. And then planning the cost for subsidized employment. These costs and this subcategory is specific to this call because we understand that it's not always possible to have a partner, a beneficiary in the project, who will be employment provider for long-term unemployed persons already now in the preparation stage. For some cases, some applicants will have such partners. Maybe some applicants will act as employment providers. That is fine. So there is option 1 here I will present shortly. But it's possible that while preparing your proposal, your project application, you will not have such partners, or you'll not have specifically, you know, named those employment providers, and you will not know who will give such, let's say, employment for long-term unemployed persons in your project. So the first option is to plan your remuneration costs in a separate work package when you know all the partners and employment providers are in your project already here. The only thing is you have to separate this work package from the other ones and name it employment of long-term unemployed persons, yeah, or other long-term unemployed persons. It will be easier later on. This is the only subcategory where you will calculate remuneration for long-term unemployed persons. If you do not have such partners during the application phase, you have to plan, and anyhow, you have to plan these expenses into your project proposal already during that phase. And you can find employment providers later. However, for employment providers to be able to pay remuneration from the grant, or basically to use the grant of the project, they have to be beneficiaries of the project. They have to become partners. How to become partners on the later stage while implementing the project? You will have to amend grant agreements to include new partners to the project and to provide them those costs for employment of long-term unemployed persons. What is important here in this second example is that you have to plan the costs anyhow for such potential employment providers on the application stage to plan them for the consortium coordinator, these expenses. So basically, if you are a coordinator, plan them as expenses in your category. Later on, you will move them to the new partner. And again, what are the stages? You have to plan employment costs in a separate work package as well. And you know, let's say conclude all this information. The second example, plan the costs in a separate work package, employment of long-term unemployed persons with other employment providers. At the first stage, all the costs are planned to project coordinator. When employment providers are included in the project through amendment of grant agreement, those costs will go to those new beneficiaries. Here is the category, subsidized employment, and just to emphasize that this is a new subcategory which is not common to other projects. And there are some rules. I will go quickly. I think I'm a little bit late, but I'm 5 more minutes, I hope, and I will go through my presentation. All costs planned for long-term unemployed should be in line with minimum wage laws or collective bargaining minimum wage of specific employment provider. So project costs cannot link to remuneration costs of long-term unemployed cannot be higher than minimum wage laws of your specific country. If it's possible to pay bigger remuneration costs, but they have not to be linked to the project costs. So you can pay that one, but they should not be in the budget, included into the budget or any co-financing of options of the project. Now, each employment position for long-term unemployed is eligible for up to 24 months. So long-term unemployed can be paid for up to 24 months, let's say minimum wage, depending, of course, on hours that they are included. Not more. There is no limit on how from which period they have to be start. Let's say, what is the minimum period of employment? There is no such requirement in the project, but the remuneration cannot be longer than 24 months. And again, applicants should plan employment positions in terms of monthly units. You are not planning them by participants, but monthly units, because we understand that, and there is a essential element of the project that any offerings of job opportunities should not be duplicating existing offerings in the labor market. They should have some kind of social innovation. They should have social innovation in them. The good practice that is scaled up or transferred from another successfully implemented social innovations. And here in the center of all the project is a long-term unemployed person, and any job offerings should be linked to that person's capacities, possibilities. It may be part-time. The job may be done on a part-time basis. Some maybe will be happy and will be able to work for on a full-time basis. And any job opportunities should be tailor-made for that specific person. So this is the main aspect here. It's not the requirement that all the people that are in the project should be employed for a full-time basis. All target group members, all long-term unemployed in the project, should be employed in some kind of way, part-time basis or full-time basis or whatever social innovation you bring to the project. But there is no requirement that they work from 8 to 5 or something like that. So we calculate them in monthly units, not by person here. So this is the empty example of all the categories from detailed budget table here. I will go through work package shortly. I already spoke a little bit before and presented some insights. So the main aspects, well, we advise that work packages with long duration can be split in depending on time of reporting periods. All work packages should be broke down into activities, and activities should be planned and measured with deliverables. We have to see the logic of the project, so activities should be logical, rational, and explained why they are necessary to reach the project's aim. You have to identify all the roles of all the beneficiaries in each activity, in each work package as well, and ensure that that the project coordinator takes the full responsibility for the project. So the team should be strong. Now the last part here is linked to project payments. So according to grant agreement, you will have 3 payments here. The first initial payment will be done in the beginning of the project, so it's up to 60% of the grant. The second pre-financing is linked to the periodic report, which will be done on the 18th month of the project implementation. So the second pre-financing will be received on the 19th month, and there will be the rest will be paid on the final payment. That is, let's say, maximum numbers here, or the ideal structure how payments are done. Normally they do comply with that, but what to do when you are late with your activities and you are not finished your work packages on time, and basically you cannot put them into the report because they are not all deliverables are done. So you are not receiving then the full second pre-financing. And here is an option here. To receive the full second pre-financing, the 25% of the grant amount, you have to declare during the first report, on the 18th month, that you have spent at least 70% of the grant. So you will receive then 25% of the second pre-financing. What to do if you did not spend 70%? At least 70%. You spend, let's say, 50%, as here emphasized here, used amount 50% of the first pre-financing. Then the second pre-financing is not fully paid. It is reduced by the 20% of the first pre-financing. It is reduced by the difference of the first pre-financing, that you are not reached those 70% threshold. I hope it is clear. One thing to mention is that you can always find answers in frequently asked questions section together with call documents on our website, on the calls page, and you can always ask question with via email, especially dedicated to this call. The last slide here related to all the financial aspects are some recommendations. So the one thing is read step-by-step instruction, which is included in detailed budget table. Watch a short video tutorial. It's really not very extensive, with main instructions how to fill it in. Fill only the active sheets of the budget table. Everything else is filled automatically. And make sure that the requested amounts and information are identical to the amounts in, the amounts are the same in the detailed budget table and in the project application. So they are the same, and make sure that the costs comply with all the requirements related to the project, and they are in line with the call documents and then with national legislation. and described in detail the activities covered by each work package. So we are sure that the expenses linked to activities are really necessary. And that is all from me speaking about the financial part of the project. Let's say to conclude our presentations, I would like to invite all the applicants to the matchmaking session, which will be held from 10 to 14th June online via B2Match platform. More information and links to the platform and how to register on the instructions are on our website. There is either on events page where is a detailed information about matchmaking session, or on the calls page where you have a banner linked to the necessary information. Only thing to mention that the registration starts on the 3rd of June. So even though you will go to the platform, you will not be able yet to register. It will be opened in the morning on the 3rd of June. When you register to the platform, please create your profile. It is advisable to create detailed profile of yourself, of your organization, so you will be visible for other participants. Worth mentioning that the sessions are not managed by European Social Fund or anyone else. You will not have any speakers delivering presentations. This platform is a tool for you to organize meetings, live meetings, video meetings with other participants, to chat with them live as well, to share the contacts, and what is important, to present your organization. It is possible to include a description of your organization on such called marketplace, where you can write your project ideas, that you're looking for certain partners, or you're looking for certain activities of our expertise. It doesn't matter. It's a platform where you can show yourself. From our side is just that we ask to register maximum 2 people per organization, and you will be able to participate in the sessions when we approve your registration. We will make sure, we just need to make sure that your organization, your country that you're applying from is eligible for this call. If you're applying with a company, with an entity that is outside the eligibility countries of this call, we will not approve the profile, you know. But here is more, let's say, extensive matchmaking room for project applicants to have to share their ideas and to find partnerships, to establish those partnerships. And please check our events page, and from the 3rd June you are able to register and to plan already video sessions if you need any video sessions with other participants. Thank you very much from my side. Do I have a last slide? I think I have a last slide. Here is our email address, ltu@esf.lt. If any questions, please write us email. And here is the final word for Renata.
Thank you, Erika, for your presentation. So the final closure, so we believe that through collaboration efforts and innovative approaches, we can create a pathways to meaningful employment and enhance social inclusion for individuals who face significant barriers to enter the workforce. So this goal is a demonstration to our commitment to these goals, and we are eager to see the innovative solutions and projects you will propose. So thank you for your interest and dedicated time for our meeting. Thank you for technical support team. And if you need further assistance, feel free to contact us by provided email address. But before leaving,